The 20th century was a dynamic era of music history, defined by constant innovation and the breaking of traditional boundaries. And it was significantly influenced by new technologies and global events. The century saw massive scale conflicts, most notably World War I, followed almost immediately by the Russian Bolshevik Revolution, followed by the Great Depression, World War II, which included the Holocaust and the dropping of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, followed by the start of the Cold War. Millions lost their lives during this time. On the positive side, the 20th century saw the development of penicillin, which revolutionized medicine by making infections treatable. The passage of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. The first moon landing. The fall of the Berlin Wall, and the invention of the World Wide Web. These events, both positive and negative, significantly impacted global politics, social structures, and, most important for us, the way music would be created and consumed. The rise of youth culture and civil rights movements provided subject matter and inspired new musical genres. Advancements like the electric guitar, synthesizers, and multi-track and digital recording expanded musical possibilities, while radio, television, and the internet democratized access to music, leading to a wide range of styles, like jazz, rock and roll, and hip-hop becoming mainstream. Socially, music became a powerful tool for expressing dissent, rebellion, and commentary on political and cultural shifts. In classical music, composers moved from the Impressionism of Debussy to the neoclassicism of Stravinsky and the atonality of Arnold Schoenberg. Stravinsky's music is characterized by its rhythmic vitality, a use of innovative orchestra. Key elements include pounding and syncopated rhythms, dissonant harmonies, brilliant and often shocking orchestra colors, and a focus on clarity of form and precision over emotionalism. Stravinsky was a relentless innovator, often transforming historical styles to create a distinctively modern sound. He is most famous for his ballet, The Rite of Spring. The first performance of The Rite of Spring was in Paris in 1913, and it resulted in an audience riot. It was fueled by the shocking, unconventional music and choreography, which clashed with traditional ballet expectations. The audience was audibly divided, with some shouting and jeering while others defended the performance. The uproar was so intense, it was difficult to hear the music. People were throwing objects, and even fistfights broke out, overshadowing the performance itself, but ultimately cementing The Rite of Spring as a revolutionary moment in modern art. Here is a link to the video. Arnold Schoenberg was the leading architect of atonality and serialism. Serialism is a 20th century form of music using a fixed, ordered sequence of musical elements, primarily pitches. Some refer to this as the 12-tone method, because it is a method of composition based on the order of 12 pitches of the chromatic scale arranged in an ordered series, which then is manipulated through transformations like inversions or retrograde to provide structure outside of traditional tonality. Here is Schoenberg's Pierre Lumière, part of a cycle of expressionist songs utilizing something called Sprechstimme, which is a speaking song technique, a novel form of melodramatic recitation that became a hallmark of his atonal period. After Schoenberg came minimalism. Musical minimalism is a style of music characterized by a limited set of materials, such as repetitive patterns, steady pulses, and simple harmonies. These are often used to create a hypnotic or meditative effect. And experimental electronic music is also used. Philip Glass was one of the leaders of minimalism. Here is one of my favorite Philip Glass compositions called Mishma Closing. Simultaneously, 4 American nationalist composers emerged to establish a distinctly American kind of music. Aaron Copland is widely considered the quintessential American nationalist composer of the 20th century. His work, which often incorporated American folk songs, hymn tunes, and jazz elements, forged a distinctively American classical style. Key works of his include the ballets Appalachian Spring, Billy the Kid, and his Fanfare for the Common Man. Here are 2 of his American tributes called Hoedown from his ballet Rodeo and Fanfare for the Common Man. George Gershwin blended popular and classical genres, including jazz, into works like Rhapsody in Blue and the opera Porgy and Bess, contributing significantly to the American vernacular style of classical music. Here are 2 of his most famous pieces, Rhapsody in Blue and Summertime. Another of these American nationalist composers was Leonard Bernstein. He was an influential figure whose work spanned symphonies, Broadway musicals, and film scores. And his composition incorporated many jazz and spiritual elements, as well as pop and Latin influences. American genres blossomed and cross-pollinated. Jazz evolved rapidly from its Dixieland origins and the big bands of the swing era emerged later. Louis Armstrong, the father of jazz, started the Dixieland movement in New Orleans as a member of King Oliver's band, and then moved up to Chicago to find greater fame and notoriety. Glenn Miller and Duke Ellington were other band leaders in the big band and swing band era. Glenn Miller created a new sound for new audiences. Here's his iconic swing, In the Mood. Blues and gospel and folk music provided the foundation, structure, and emotional depth that would help birth the rock and roll movement of the 1950s. Elvis Presley sparked the global rock and roll music phenomenon that would dominate the rest of the century in countless forms. Next, the advent of music videos created visual icons like Michael Jackson and Madonna, who were instrumental in defining the era's sound and image. As rock and roll's hold loosened in the 1990s, hip-hop and rap became a major force, influencing pop with its strong rhythms and lyrics. The digital era had truly arrived. These musical forms intertwined across different media, reshaping how entertainment was experienced. Broadway musicals progressed from simple operettas to the narrative-driven Golden Age, with musicals by Rodgers and Hammerstein, and later the complex conceptual pieces of Stephen Sondheim and the rock operas of Andrew Lloyd Webber. Motion picture scores, initially relying on the grand orchestral traditions established by composers like Eric Korngold and John Williams, began incorporating jazz, pop, and electronic elements as the decades progressed. This continuous dialogue between high art and popular entertainment, between traditional instrumentation and electronic sound devices, created an incredibly rich and diverse 20th century musical language where innovation was really the only constant. Billboard is an American music and entertainment magazine known as the undisputed leader in music industry news and for publishing the industry standard music charts, including the Hot 100 songs and the Billboard 200 albums. These are the songs which rank the most popular weekly. Billboard tracks over 200 genres and reports that overall music industry revenue in 2024 was $17.7 billion. That's with a B. Rock and roll held the largest market share in terms of album sales, while streaming accounted for the largest portion of total revenue overall. Rock and roll accounted for 41% of album sales and 43% of physical sales, making it the largest genre by these metrics. So now, let's try to summarize over 2,000 years of musical history. We see that the evolution of Western music from the ancient era to today demonstrates a continuous interplay between tradition and innovation, a shift from purely sacred to predominantly secular focus, a move towards ever-increasing complexity in harmony and structure, followed by 20th century experimentation, and a profound impact from technological advances in preservation and in dissemination, that is, marketing and getting the music into the hands of the masses. We have traveled from monophonic to polyphonic to complex harmony, from sacred to secular, and now to individual expression, from standardization of forms to diversification of forms. We can observe that technological advances have consistently shaped music's trajectory. Music notation, the printing press, instrument development, recording and digital technology, and the internet have transformed how music is created, distributed, and consumed, leading to the global genre-blending landscape of today's music. In cultural reforms, the importance of music cannot be overstated. Music can speak truth to an issue in ways that are much more powerful and persuasive than mere speech. In essence, Western music has evolved from a functionally rigid, church-dominated art form into a vast, diverse, and accessible expressive medium, constantly adapting to cultural shifts and leveraging new technologies to explore new sonic possibilities. Finally, I will end today's lesson with an example from Bach's Passion of St. Matthew. This sacred oratorio by Bach is considered by many to be the greatest work of art by any artist of any art form. In the spirit of innovation and change, partnered with a respect and gratitude for all the wonderful artworks of history, we will close this lesson with a treatment of this, the most famous chorus from Bach's work, St. Matthew Passion, rearranged by contemporary Christian artist Fernando Ortega. Here is O Sacred Head, Now Wounded. Solo Deo Gloria. As Bach wrote, to God be all the glory.